Welcome to In Phase, In Tune with Autism, the podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Email. Together, we're shifting away from old paradigms and stepping into a new way of thinking when it comes to relating to the non-speaking autistic population. One that presumes competence in the intellect, acknowledges the brain-body disconnect, and honors the profound spiritual roles that these individuals may be playing in our rising consciousness as a human race. It's time to connect with our intuition and get truly in phase. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to the In Phase, In Tune with Autism, the podcast. My name is Eileen Email and I am your host. And today I'm interviewing Sara Intonato. And Sara, I'm going to kind of generally say your bio of what I know about you, and you can add and subtract and correct. So Sara is a mom to a non-speaking autistic named Rocco, who is on the letterboards. And Sara is a RPM practitioner herself. And you are also a yoga instructor. Is that right? And parent coach, right? And then you have your own school for parents.
I have my own group membership called Autism Changemakers, and it's for parents of non-speakers or unreliable speakers, because I was noticing as a parent that when you're parenting a non-speaker, there are so many things that you have to look at on a daily basis. Anything from the letterboard to gut health to behaviors to toxins in the home, so many things. And I felt like every group I found, you were only allowed to talk about their thing. Like only talk about gut health here, or only talk about the letterboard here. But everything is intertwined with our children, no matter how old they are. And I really felt called to create a place for parents to safely express and learn about things that can actually help them regardless of what they're dealing with in that particular moment. And this really came from me being a young mom who had a child who was diagnosed with nonverbal autism. And I was the mom that was willing to do anything. Like, tell me what to do to help my kid thrive. I will go do it. And I had to go to the ends of the earth to find role models of families that were thriving. They weren't coming to me through the typical things offered in school districts and through typical medical environments.
The mainstream subscriptions.
And that was very alarming to me, because we're doing all these things that are supposed to be helping, and yet I'm not seeing any success stories.
Yeah, you're feeling like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall. You're feeling like you're not putting your energy where it's actually progressing things.
It was jarring to me because I just needed a role model to show me the way, and I couldn't find one. And I had to go figure it out myself. At the time, this is 14 years ago. My son is 16 now. He's an open scholar. He's thriving. But at that time, the internet was not a happy place. There was no TikTok. People weren't talking about open spelling or gut health. Everything that I found relating to autism was very, very heavy. There was a lot of
disempowering.
Yes.
Like hopelessness.
Yes. A lot of victim mentality, a lot of narratives like that's just autism. And my background, as you said, is in yoga. I've been a teacher for 20 plus years. I've taken 11 extended trips of study to India. I have seen in my life that if you don't find a way, go make one. And I knew that there was a way for my child to thrive. I couldn't find a role model easily. Eventually, I did find them in the functional medicine communities and in the letterboard communities, but it was hard to go searching back in the day when people were scared of Asha. So nobody wanted to make a video and talk about anything. And I remember thinking it shouldn't be this hard for a mom like me who's willing to try, who's willing to invest her time and energy and resources in helping her child. And so when Rocco got to a place of really, truly thriving, I thought, what could I create that would just make it easier for parents to find those role models and to find tools that actually work instead of the ones handed to them that do not seem to yield high success rates. I've openly posted many times saying, if you have a success story through the traditional medical channels or through traditional school channels, ABA channels, please share it with me. I'm open to hearing about it. Nobody,
Right.
nobody has sent me one message, which still
Mm-hmm.
is so shocking to me. But I nonetheless wanted to create a place where parents could find alternatives that were actually working. And,
Yeah.
we learn
Mm-hmm.
from one another. We're not learning them
Yes.
from these big systems that were
No.
supposed to do their job and are not. So that's how
Mhm.
autism change makers came to exist. I always say that when I became a coach for all individuals, mostly
Mhm.
parents of non-speakers, but all individuals,
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be leaving my yoga career behind. I had a very successful yoga business. I thought
Mhm.
this was going to be my forever career. And the autism path showed me something different. And I
Yeah.
listened to it. But interestingly, I use all of those tools from my
Mhm.
yogic journey.
You needed that part of your journey
I
to
need
support where
I
you are
needed it.
now.
I needed to understand the nervous systems of parents who
Mhm.
go through this and
Mhm.
how they are essentially managing something that a nervous system was not designed for
Right.
and ongoing, right? With no
Ongoing.
right.
There it doesn't stop.
Right. So I realize if they're going to keep going, they're going to need some different tools that the general population is not using
Right.
in the same way. So ironically, I use my yogic tools with my clients daily
Right.
and they work. It's
And they work.
fascinating. Yeah,
Mhm.
I know. I'm sure you've seen families who have resistance with the letterboard, the kid who picks it up and throws it or refuses to spell.
Oh, every single day. Every single day.
Yeah,
So truly what I'm hearing is you created what you wish you would have had.
100%.
And that's why I'm so excited to have you on this space today because I feel like truly, like when I tune into you, like my dad used to always say this thing, it's like, they got a good head on their shoulders, like they're
Mm,
doing it right. And so I feel like you're doing it right. Whenever I approach these conversations, I approach them in comparison to old paradigm thinking and mainstream. And you just explained what that was, putting the energy where it doesn't matter, using all these tools that are not working to you finding your own way, finding the tools that work. I feel like you're a great embodiment of that, especially in terms of what I want to see for the future with this population and their families and in terms of systems that we have. So the whole thing, presuming competence 100%, finding regulation in mom and dad, so the leaders of the family, and having that trickle down obviously to the kids, and then also relying on your intuition and finding your own way, not just being like, I don't want to shame this way because I feel like we all have different roles and jobs here, and it was obviously your job to figure it out. It was your role to figure it out. Some people, their roles and experiences and gifts are in other arenas,
yeah.
and so they still need people like you to do their role and do their job. So I'm just so excited to have you here to move the conversation forward in this direction. And you're actually living it and you're teaching it. Yeah.
There's so many things I could say after what you just shared.
Hmm.
But for me, it comes down to common sense. If something is working, run with it, share it.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
something is not working, why are you wasting your time and energy doing it? And I
Hmm.
know that when you're dealing with a non speaker, there is that phase of uncertainty where you don't actually know if something is working or not, because most of the things that we work with
Hmm.
are not instant gratification things.
They usually never are, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Would you go into the gym
Hmm.
and expect huge transformations after going once
Right.
or for a week? No,
Hmm.
you'd probably have to track your progress, maybe work with a mentor and be
Hmm.
diligent in doing this for a while to know if it's actually working. I think where the
Right.
systems trip up is we now have a lot of evidence in what we're seeing around us with autistic adults who've
Hmm.
been doing things by the book, the way the system told them to,
Right.
who are not thriving. In fact, who suffered great harm at being infantilized and not given communication methods that work for their motor planning needs. And we're
Hmm.
not seeing them thrive. I think we have a collective responsibility now to say, okay, first, how can we still help this population? But second, what do we need to change so that we don't keep repeating this cycle of spending an enormous amount of time and energy and money
Mm-hmm.
in modalities that are not actually yielding successful results. And I think parents
Mm-hmm.
like me, like many of my friends now, I've met many friends in this world, were the ones who said, I'm not willing to wait and see. I'm not
Yeah.
willing to wait and see if the district does right by my child, if these methods that don't seem to be working suddenly start to work.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you throw them away, but it might mean you get curious around trying some other things, listening to some other
Mm-hmm.
parents, finding a role model. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is true in any area of life. If you were going to a doctor and your blood work had troubling results, and
Yeah.
you continued to do what this doctor said, and you did it diligently, you didn't cut corners, but you
Mm-hmm.
weren't seeing progress and your health was on the line, you'd change something. You'd
Right.
either get a second opinion or do follow-up lab results to take a closer look or take a deeper dive into some genetic testing. You wouldn't just keep doing it and say, oh, well.
Right.
And that's essentially what parents
Mm-hmm.
are either going to do now or they're going to make a change. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's beautiful the way you said that everyone has a purpose and a role on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe one path is not better or worse than the other. We all have our lessons in this lifetime. But
100%. Mm-hmm.
if you're a parent who's feeling frustrated, don't be afraid to try something new and don't be afraid to seek out a mentor in that regard to show you the way. Because if you knew the way already, you'd be doing it.
You'd be doing it, right? Very good. All very, very good. So let me segue into, in order to step into this new path, in order to try something new, it takes courage, right? Because there's fear on the other side, because that's just what's conditioned into us. So many people don't realize that. They might not look into spelling just because they've heard X, Y, and Z. It's not evidence based and all those other things. So there's that there. Whenever I attended one of your support groups, just to observe and to be there as kind of like a support in the community, I heard you say to one of your members, in which I also coach my clients with this who are in my coaching space, is what she was saying was a story. You said, this is just a story. And you said it so directly, but also so respectfully and in a supportive way. So, can you explain to me, what do you mean by this is just a story, and how acknowledging the story and coming at it the right way can move you forward?
I love this because stories are exactly that. They're things that we tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people don't even realize that they're doing that because they've just taken this belief to be face value. A great example of a story we hear in our community all the time is that's just autism.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I heard someone say that, it just felt intuitively wrong to me. Every time I heard someone say that to me when I was seeking solutions for my son's intense sleep regressions, for
Mm-hmm.
his dysregulation, for his skin eruptions that he was having, his body was clearly not feeling well.
Ah, yeah.
I would have
Mm-hmm.
people say things to me like, oh, that's just autism. In other words, get used to it. You can't
Right.
do anything about it. Don't bother.
Mm-hmm.
That never felt intuitively right to me because I also have a daughter. She's typically developing, and my kids are 18 months apart. So every
Mm-hmm.
phase of life, they were in it together. They were in the
Together.
baby toddler phase together. They were in the preschool phase together. And if she had woken up one day with huge skin irritations and was clearly
Yeah.
uncomfortable, would anyone tell me, oh, that's just how it is and expect me
Right.
to believe that?
Mm-hmm.
No, they'd
Mm-hmm.
probably say, oh, take her to urgent care or give your functional practitioner a call, something.
Yeah.
And I was really troubled by those types of stories popping up in the autism world. And when I started looking at subconscious programming, Jim Fortin, who's a brilliant coach, is one of my mentors. He really took a look at how our brains,
Mm-hmm.
subconscious level, will seek out evidence in the 3D world around us to
Mm-hmm.
reinforce our stories. So
Right.
if you have the story of that's just autism, there's nothing I can do about it, and you're holding
Mm-hmm.
that to be true, you will seek out support groups,
Mm.
online spaces, podcasts, even social media pages where that narrative is held to be true. Anytime
Totally true.
your
Right.
child has a behavior, you will tell yourself the story, oh, that's just autism, to reinforce that
Mm-hmm.
story. This is how
Right.
the brain works. It's actually pretty amazing how your subconscious is trying to
Yeah.
keep you safe, because
Yeah.
familiarity equals
Mm-hmm.
safety in the
Safety. Right.
subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone breaks your pattern and says, how do you know that?
Right.
And you don't have anything to back it up, it can feel very jarring, actually,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
you've probably never considered, what if it's not just autism? What if there's something happening in my child's gut? What if they have a tick-borne bacteria infection that I need to look at? What if? And it
Mm-hmm.
actually challenges all the things that your brain has been running, all the patterns you've been running to
Right.
keep you safe, which is
Mm-hmm.
why it's very important to me when I coach someone in a support circle, one-on-one,
Mm-hmm.
in our group, to deliver this information very thoughtfully and compassionately, because I've
Yeah.
walked in their shoes, I know how it feels, and
Right.
I want to help them shift. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
telling them you're right or wrong. It's about helping them get clarity, actually,
Yes.
on,
Mm-hmm.
is that story you're telling yourself really true? Do you
Mm-hmm.
have 3D evidence that this is how it's always going to be? Or is that just a story?
Right.
Because if you can shift your stories, they're no longer subconscious, they're conscious.
Yes.
And you're changing your patterns thoughtfully, consciously, and that
Mm-hmm.
can change your whole life. I mean,
It
if you
can,
look at
and it will.
and if you look at your family of origin, things your
Mm-hmm.
parents said to you growing up, you know, it's hilarious actually to look back and think about all the
Yeah.
stories you were told. Like,
The
what is
stories and the beliefs.
right?
Yeah.
Like, money doesn't grow on trees. I remember telling my parents, I'm like, it actually does. Like, paper grows on trees, and that's actually my
We literally get
right.
paper from trees.
Right. But if you've held that story to be true,
Yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
what you were told. I mean, we carry stories around what motherhood should look like, what a good
Yes.
parent is. I've had clients
Mm-hmm.
who have come to me saying, I'm the parent who yells because I grew up with parents who yelled. And so I have this pattern of yelling because I don't know any different.
Right.
I don't know what a gentle mom looks like,
Mm-hmm.
because they were raised with the story that parents don't do it like that.
Right.
So we are all, as humans, meaning making machines. And I encourage anyone listening to ask yourself, is that true? Is that real? Is that the
Uh-huh.
story? Could I create a different story that actually supports the thing I want to achieve? And that might mean you write it on Post-its, you
Mm-hmm.
put it on your bathroom mirror, you journal it, you tell it to yourself over and over. And it can be really simple. Think of if you're somebody who wants to run a marathon and yet
Mm-hmm.
you've never run more than a mile. You're
Mm-hmm.
probably, understandably, going to have some stories around running is really hard. Running long distances is really hard.
Right.
Well, what if you create a different story around it and say, I can do hard things with ease. My body
Yes.
always supports me in things I want
Mm-hmm.
to do. And just start to live by those stories. And if it feels too edgy to do this for your child right now, because
Mm-hmm.
life is lifing and I totally get it,
You're right.
do it for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
if you have a pattern of not treating your body well, maybe you're skipping
Mm-hmm.
meals because you're too busy taking care of your kids, maybe you're not hydrating or sleeping enough, I'm going to guess that you have some stories around being worthy or not. And
Right.
if it feels too edgy to say the story of, I love myself,
Mm-hmm.
you could change a different one and say, I'm so grateful for my body today. And think
Mm-hmm.
about it. You're alive today. Your body woke up.
Yeah.
You can look at yourself in the mirror, even if you're 50 pounds overweight, even if you did not parent perfectly yesterday, and just say, body, thank you for being alive today. I'm grateful
Yeah.
for you. And
Yeah.
that's a different story, and it will set you up differently for your whole day. And a
Mm-hmm.
story that I have that really supports
Mm-hmm.
my life, parenting and not parenting, is that the world is filled with wonderful people who want to help
Mm.
each other. So when
I
I'm
love
walking
that.
down the street,
Mm-hmm.
smile at me, I smile back.
Yeah.
If I urgently need something, I always find someone to help me. They're always
Yeah.
absolutely overjoyed to do so. When I'm traveling all over the world to far off places that are supposed to be dangerous, I always anchor in, like, I'm taken care of. I meet the most wonderful people to help me on my journey. And you name it, whether
100%.
it's lost luggage, whether it is, no taxi available, landing at midnight in a foreign country, I always find people
Hmm.
who help me and care for me on a sincere level, even if I'm only interacting with them for 1 minute. And that's a story that I truly believe supports my life and supports the world around me. So if this is something that you feel curious about and you think, oh, I need a little more of this, I strongly recommend the first self-help book that I ever read in my life by Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life.
Love Louis Day.
Love
Hmm.
Louise Hay. I
Hmm.
was 22 years old when I picked up her book, and essentially she talked about her own health and healing journey, which
Hmm.
she took seriously
Yeah.
as examining her stories.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And research shows this these days. Like, we have an energetic field, we send out signals, and whatever is within that signal in the 3D life is what we're going to attract back to us. So it truly starts with your stories. And I love the way you talked about moving from old to new. But for me, in my own experience, in order to be able to have the thoughts to support the new, to have the words to support the new, to have the choices in the world and actions to support who I truly wanted to be, I had to go through intense shedding. It was a lot of emotional repression. So, a lot of processing emotions, a lot of journaling just to see what am I even believing about myself truly, a lot of meditation. So it was a process because I tried in the beginning to do just the affirmations, right? But it's like they weren't sticking. They couldn't stick because the signal wasn't true. And so, in order to support my signal, I feel like there was such a process. Was it like that for you?
I would say that my process will probably not be finished in this lifetime. I think I'm here to learn and grow,
Right.
but
So it's ongoing. I agree.
ongoing.
Yeah.
But I
Mhm.
do think that your frequency changes as you grow and change. So
Mhm.
as you operate at a new frequency, everything is energy. This is not my
Mhm.
opinion. This is science.
Right.
What does not resonate as an energetic match will part ways with
Fall
you,
away.
fall away.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's not a good or bad thing. We see this happen in nature with change of season, right? This is a
Mhm.
normal, natural activity. And yet humans are so scared of change. They try to cling to what was instead of
Yeah.
embracing the shedding. I remember a few years ago, just a quick aside, I had just learned about the Native American animal totem medicine.
Mhm.
And I live in an area that was populated by tribes and tribal people for many years. So I was curious about this. And I found a card deck by Jamie Sams, and every card was a picture of an animal. And you
Mhm.
could read the passage in a book that accompanied it around your lesson. When you pulled that card, that was a lesson. Or if you saw that animal, out in the road when you were hiking, that was a
Right.
message for you, right? Like look to the
Right.
lessons. And I'll never forget the first time I pulled a card for the year,
Mhm.
2021. I got the card the bat.
Mhm.
The bat symbolizes death and rebirth, shedding.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
remember thinking, I don't know if this seems right for me. So, of course, what did I
Mm.
do? I shuffled the card deck again
You got it
and I
again.
got the bat again. And I thought, okay, universe, buckle up. And knowing what I know now, like, oh, gee,
Uh,
when you just embrace the shedding, don't fight it because it will actually
That's right.
smoother
Oh my
when you
gosh.
embrace it. But that was the year that I feel like everything shattered and it needed to. And that was the
Mhm.
year my son was kicked out of school
Mm.
and we had to start fresh for him. It ended up being the absolute best thing that could have possibly happened to
Mhm.
us. That was the year I got certified in RPM and we started our
Mhm.
spelling journey. Everything had to be broken down and rebuilt. And I
Mhm.
think that there is great wisdom in letting things go. I
Mhm.
shockingly meet a lot of clients, autism
Mhm.
parents and not, who get really afraid when their relationships change. Maybe they're not as close to their childhood friend anymore. Maybe their college friends have distanced themselves a bit because they don't have kids with autism and they can't understand that life. And the parent will always feel a little bit sad and left
Right.
out in some ways and sometimes fearful. And I think that goes back to our innate fear of abandonment because it used to be that if you were abandoned, your survival was threatened. You needed to
100%.
thrive.
This is all evolutionary. Yeah.
Right. Right. And you see resonance of that still lingering around, when we go
Mm,
through an up level and it's time to shed, and
right.
then parents get scared of the shed, not just parents, but humans get scared of the shed.
Yeah.
And I always remind people, as your vibration and energy evolve and change, it's only natural that
Yeah.
things will fall away. Just allow them. And it doesn't mean that they fall away in a hateful fashion either.
Hmm.
It's not a mean thing. You can still love someone. You can still send that person good energy, even if you only talk once a month instead of once a day.
Yeah.
Right. And I think
Hmm.
that's something that, you know, a mentor of mine always says you can't steal second base with your foot still on first.
Mm-hmm.
And yet
Yeah.
we try to do
You
that.
can't move forward. Right.
Right.
Hmm.
And what's possible for you if you just let go of first base and go for it?
Right. Right.
You'll get there faster.
And then you'll start to attract the ones who are actually in alignment with you, with where you are now. I mean, that's how I feel like we're having this conversation right
Yeah.
now. We're both part of a group called Presume Comp,
Yeah.
and we're planning an event that's happening in October, right?
Mhm.
The Presume Comp Fest. And
Yeah.
it's parents and practitioners, and sometimes both, like you, from everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're all on the same wavelength. And it's like we all just came together, and it's because our signals match each other. And for me, I at the time really didn't have much support in that arena besides like Austin, and now I have so many, so many. And it was trusting the shed, trusting the process.
It's intense though. And I think that some people really resist leaving their comfort zone.
They do.
And I
They
get it.
really do.
There have been
Yeah.
times where I've tried to stay in it. And ultimately, if I really get quiet and listen to my gut, I know it's time to let go of that resistance.
Hmm.
But this is true for anything, whether your resistance is in starting a spelling journey for your child
Hmm.
and you felt some resistance because it's felt like a scary leap for you, or maybe
Can you speak to that a little bit?
absolutely.
Can you speak to the start of the spelling journey and the bumps that you run into, but also the beginning, like the very first resistance and fear that's usually always there?
I'm going to share this through the lens of my coaching work now because something really interesting has been happening lately. I've been
Hmm.
getting more calls from grandparents who are
Really?
who are with it. These people are doing their,
Oh, I just got chills.
I know, they're doing their research. Some of them are going to spelling training. They're
Yeah.
they're learning and they want to help their grandchildren. Here's the rub.
Hmm.
Their children, the kids' parents, are in a lot of resistance. And
Right.
so grandparents are coming to me saying, how can I get my son to take my grandchild to a spelling provider? How can I show my daughter that it's so important for her to learn about the letterboard? And
Mm-hmm.
they get really frustrated when they see that the parent is not going at the pace that they, as the grandparent, want them to.
Hmm.
And
And
I said to
I feel like the parent is in survival mode usually, and usually under so much stress. And I don't want to put shame on the resistance. I want to bring an awareness to the resistance and what you can do when you're in that spot. But continue. Sorry.
well, I just had this conversation 2 days ago. And I
Hmm.
said to my friend, who's a grandfather of a little guy who has not yet started the spelling journey, I said, put yourself in your son and his wife's shoes. They've got two little ones. They're doing
Hmm.
what they're being told to do.
Right.
That in and of itself is taking a lot of time and energy. They're
Hmm.
not ready to yet give up hope that their child will talk, nor should they. My child talks more as a teenager than he did when he was 10 or 5 or anything. So don't give up
Hmm.
hope and don't
Hmm.
stop doing
Hmm.
the work. But they've got a lot of beliefs tied up in being where they are now. and they're
Mhm.
overwhelmed. Like it's overwhelming enough
Oh, it's overwhelmed.
two kids
It's
under five,
overwhelmed.
right? Like never
Mhm.
mind a kid who's different, who needs different things. I said, so
Mhm.
keep in mind also, you're the grandparent who's coming in with a lot of advice, who
Yeah.
gets to go home to your quiet house at night. You don't have
Right.
babies waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or
Mhm.
adults with autism waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't have the mental weight of wondering what this child's trajectory is going to be like every night
Yeah.
when you try to go to sleep.
Always.
You just don't.
Mhm.
I said, so here's what I suggest you do. If you want your grandchild to take a spelling journey, you go read a book, you go do your certification, you just go to the parents and say, hey, I want to have special grandpa time a couple times a week. I'm going to pick him up and bring him to this
Mhm.
spelling provider I worked with. I just want to see what it's all about. You're welcome to come or not. This is just going to be something cool we do together,
Right.
and give it a go. I had a grandmother who
Yeah.
just spelled with her grandson in the house.
Yeah.
That's how they started, because he was
I
dealing
love that.
with behaviors and the mom wasn't comfortable with him going out to a center. She was afraid.
Mhm. Yeah.
So guess what
Mhm.
happened? That
Mhm.
family, the mom got on the wagon, started taking the son to spelling, because eventually she's like, I could do this better than you, mom. Let me just do it. Right? Like,
Right. Yeah,
he's
it's
my
just
son.
getting that initial getting in it. Yeah.
He's my son. He'll spell with me, obviously. So she
Right.
got on board, but she didn't get on board until she was ready,
Mhm.
and until the grandmother leaned back and let her find
Mhm.
her way. I share this because I know what it's like to be that parent who feels like you're doing everything.
Yeah.
Your life is so full, and then you hear about spelling, and it's like, oh, you're basically asking me to shove a huge fur coat into an already overstuffed suitcase.
Oh my gosh,
How am
yes.
I doing this? And pay for it out of pocket also. That's a whole other
Mhm. Yeah.
thing. And something that could potentially work, but that requires me to have hope. And I've had hope already with all these other things that haven't worked. And
Right.
I don't think I have it in me to have hope again and have it be crushed, because it might
Yes.
actually break me.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
if you're a parent who's been dancing around the spelling journey and kind of in that place of, I know I should do it, but I haven't done it yet, please
Mhm.
be kind and gentle to yourself. I
Yeah.
walked in your shoes. I know how you feel. It is not something to rush. And
It's not.
and
Mhm.
what do you hope to gain by waiting?
Mm.
So there sometimes are serious things to gain by waiting. Like,
Mhm.
we want to take a family trip first, and we want to just have that experience this summer. Great, have at it. When you come home, then start. Sometimes the waiting is just waiting, and it's that lie of telling yourself, I'll do it later.
Mhm.
You and I both know later is not really a thing. It's just
Mhm.
something we tell ourselves when we are not yet taking ownership of something most of the time. So,
Mhm.
what do you hope to gain by waiting? If your child is struggling with dysregulation behavior, I know the knee jerk reaction is, let me wait until they're better,
Mhm.
try something new. Sometimes that can be true, but what do you have to lose by getting letterboards and asking them 2 questions a day and just
Yeah.
getting them
Mhm.
familiarized with the letterboards? Maybe you don't enroll them in lessons yet, if,
Mhm.
especially if their health challenges are very acute, but
Mhm.
maybe you just start where you are. And this is actually what I do in Autism Changemakers. We've got group members from all over the world, many of
Yeah.
whom don't have a provider nearby.
Mhm.
Some parents who are single parents and can't step away to do training right now.
Mhm.
And how can we just get you started? Let's just start
Right.
at the very
Just get you started.
let's
Right.
start.
Mhm.
As you start, you'll start getting data around what your next step should be. But nobody can hand you the
Mhm.
perfect roadmap and say, just take this and follow this highway all the way to the finish line.
No, every single spelling journey is different.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. So what will more than likely happen is you'll get started, you'll put wheels in motion,
Mhm.
and then you'll hit a roadblock of some sort. And then you'll get curious, you'll find some resources, and you'll make a U-turn and you'll go in another direction. And you'll go in that direction for a while. And then because our
Mhm.
kids are always growing and changing, you'll hit a
Yes.
detour. And then at
Mhm.
the detour, you're going to have to call up your mentors again and get some help and figure something out. And then you get onto the superhighway.
Mhm.
And then you take that as far as you can take it.
Mhm.
And sometimes it just keeps going. And other times you hit another little pothole along the way and you have to tune something up. And other times you need a little rest stop along the way. And that's normal too. But nothing happens at all if you don't put wheels in motion. So just put
Right.
wheels in motion.
I love it. I love how you have the metaphors just like ready to go rolling. Okay, you're saying trust the journey. It's not always going to be up. It's going to be up and down,
Oh, yeah.
but you acknowledge yourself, you're gentle with yourself, you ask for help from trusted support and resources. The way that I see it is when you're approaching this journey, or if you're aware of spelling at all as a parent, you're either in the boat of, I'm hearing about it and I know that it's pulling at my intuition. There's something about it, but I'm waiting. And maybe in that space, the parent doesn't really understand that they're afraid. And then there's the boat of, okay, I'm on this journey and I'm moving forward with it. How was it for you to make that jump? Like, you obviously had to hear about it, you had to contemplate it. Did you wait for a while and maybe play that waiting game for a while? How was it for you?
At first, I waited only because I thought that it was essential to have a provider.
Okay.
I didn't
Hmm.
think you could really become a provider unless you had some type of autism education or were already a therapist of some sort. So I looked for a provider first. I couldn't find anyone with any availability. So I kept looking. And then COVID happened. And
Hmm.
so it was this whole process was a few years at least, maybe more than a
Hmm.
few. And then when we moved further east, there was really nobody nearby to help
Hmm.
me. Putting my kid on a plane wasn't easy, especially during the COVID years with the masks and whatnot. And I was like, let me
Hmm.
figure this out myself at home. I'm going to just go do the training now.
Hmm.
And that's what I did. And
Hmm.
I think it happened in divine timing.
It happened in divine
I don't think
timing.
there's
Yeah.
any sense in beating yourself up for not doing it sooner. There's
No.
been great beauty actually in my son starting spelling at 12
Hmm.
because he was old enough to know and to remember most of his life not having a voice. So every
Hmm.
time we sat down to spell, even if it was for 5 minutes, even if he was in the middle of a health crisis and dysregulation
Hmm.
was really intense, I would just say to him, we're working towards your voice every day.
Hmm.
We may not have it perfectly today, but I've got your back and
I
this
love
is where
that.
we're going. And it made the 5 minutes doable when that was all we could do some days.
Yeah.
And I think people put a lot of pressure on
They
themselves.
put a lot of pressure, and it's like if we can't sit down for more than
Yeah,
5 minutes, then it's not right. You're so right. 5 minutes is enough. Just coming back to it consistently, never pushing against the energy, going with it.
yeah,
But I love that. And it's so important for people to know because I'm very hesitant about posting things with my clients that look like extreme dysregulation or whatever. One, because I want to protect my client, and two, because there, especially in Louisiana, there's so much heavy criticism of that's not real, it can be harmful, like all those things. And so the ones that I do post, it is with my people. I'm holding the board and I'm not moving, and they're like very regulated, right? Because I don't want to, like, with people who are fearful of it at this point and uneducated about it, I don't want to give them the wrong idea. But with that being said, there is so much dysregulation. I work with very what people would call and what they themselves would call difficult bodies.
yeah.
And so it doesn't look like the perfect thing, and it's not going to look like the perfect thing all the time.
I think that's really, really crucial. And I think I've said time and again, I think we need a spelling blooper challenge on social media
Okay.
because what I'm
Mhm.
seeing parents coming into Autism Changemakers wanting to spell at home, seeking out my support, and they all think they're doing it wrong when their
Mhm.
child is dysregulated. They think they're doing a terrible job. These are people who are getting formal trainings and certifications. They think
Right.
they're doing it wrong when their child won't sit in a chair. They
Right.
think they're
Because all they see is people sitting in a
correct.
chair and spelling.
That's right, because everyone's
Yeah.
afraid.
So should I start showing the
I
dysregulation?
would. Everyone's
Yeah.
afraid to post their blooper videos. I think back to the first
Mhm.
video I had to take from my own certification. thank God I had to submit videos for my certification or I never would have taken them. And I look back, it's hilarious. You know, Rocco's chewing on a Chewy. He's got a fidget spinner in one hand. At one point, he throws it. You know, he's bouncing up and down in his chair. He's hitting the letterboard so hard, he's practically knocking it out of my hand. We bring in the sensory activity. Of course, he starts like flicking the sensory activity. You know, it's a whole thing. And I'm so glad I have that. And I've shared it countless times now. Like, look at this.
I love that.
You know, this kid's an open speller now. He just spelled his own IEP meeting yesterday for the first time. It was incredible.
I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah.
But that we never would have gotten there if we hadn't embraced the mess. If I had been telling myself the story, Sarah, you're not doing a good job because he can't sit in a chair.
Or he's not really listening, right?
Or he's too fidgety. This doesn't look how it's supposed to look on YouTube. We never would have gotten there. And so I really think that parents need to embrace the mess as part of this journey. Just embrace the mess. This is not a sign you're doing it wrong. We all have days like that. Sometimes we still have them, even when our kids are open spellers and older. It's just
100%. Yeah.
People aren't showing them because they're afraid of the Asha big bad wolf.
I just don't want to deter anybody. But at the same time, I'm getting more into the point of like, who's meant to be here will be here. You know, this is what this is, and you're either on board or you're not, and you're either ready or you're not.
That's right. That's right. I remember seeing a video of, I think Soma's posted this. I know my mentor Lene Crandall has shown us videos of going to do lessons.
Was it the guy typing with his toes?
No, but I've seen that one. It's great. Find a way when there isn't one, right? Make one.
Right.
It was a provider going to do lessons in the car when the child was so afraid to go to a new place and the car felt safe for them. I mean, the best doctors I've ever worked with have examined my kid in the car when he was afraid to go.
Yeah.
And meeting a kid where they are, kid of any age, right? And I think that's so beautiful. Meeting the kid where they are they presenting with a lot of dysregulation? How can you meet them there? I remember in my level 1 certification with Soma Mukhopadhyay, who's still my teacher, the very first video she showed us in the training was her working with a student for the first time when they were having incredibly aggressive behavior. She was literally like walking around the room with them, wearing long sleeves so that she wasn't worried about getting scratched.
Right.
And clearly they were struggling, but they did the lesson anyway. And then she showed us a video of the 4th session, not the 4th month, the 4th session.
The 4th session.
And the student was sitting in a chair.
Right. Big leaps can happen quickly when you're doing it the right way. And speaking of doing this the right way, I work with a lot of kids with aggressive tendencies, extreme OCD tendencies. And what's really been highlighted for me in this being successful is remembering person inside is completely different from body impulses and OCD tendencies and aggressive tendencies. And so all those things I do not take personally. I do not say this person meant to do this. I keep talking to the person on the inside. I keep presuming competence. I keep engaging them. And then I coach for regulation. And there's a whole way to do that, right? I coach them to tune into their body, and I coach them for their purposeful motor, and we get through it every single time. Do you have any stories to share about that type of thing with Rocco or anyone else? Or
well, with Rocco, and I can only speak for my own child in this regard, but actually I've seen it in clients as well, many of them. When you are fighting a body that's not only impulsive, but does not feel healthy and well, it's going to make your work so much harder and more frustrating for parents as well. I know it's not always convenient to take your kid for blood work or do a stool test or stay on top of their diet. But very often I have seen my own child's OCD loops, stimming behaviors, excitatory ones that have become more like OCDs. Almost always, I'm going to say 95% of the time related to what was happening in his body. And I know we hear stories of that's just autism. There's no link between the gut and autism or diet and autism. We hear a lot of these narratives from every angle, right? And
Right.
I can only say that in my personal experience, that has not been true. I have always seen a correlation, and I am very thankful to have worked with functional medicine doctors who said to me from the beginning, I hate the word behavioral because
Yeah.
people throw
Mm-hmm.
it around, but they never get curious around what's
Mm-hmm.
causing the behavior. Certainly, being frustrated that you can't communicate and you're essentially wearing a muzzle can provoke
Mm-hmm.
behaviors. I can't imagine what that feels like. That's
Right.
incredibly
Mm-hmm.
dysregulating. But if you couple that
Mm-hmm.
frustration with, I'm feeling so unwell in my body that I can't find relief,
Mm-hmm.
it's only going to exacerbate behaviors even more. I remember I was speaking with a brilliant
Mm-hmm.
occupational therapist and executive functioning coach, and she came to do a class for us. It's recorded in the Autism Changemakers library. And someone was asking her about her son's behaviors, and the topic of stripping, like taking clothes
Mm-hmm.
off, came up,
Yeah.
which is very
Mm-hmm.
common in the autism community.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she said, think about it. If you're uncomfortable in your body as a
Mm-hmm.
typical adult,
Mm-hmm.
what's your first reaction when you feel uncomfortable? To get rid of whatever's causing the
Right.
discomfort. And,
Mm-hmm.
if your body doesn't feel well, of course you're going to think, could it be something in my clothes? Let me just take that off and see if
Yeah.
I feel better. And
Mm-hmm.
she said the behaviors often start with that, especially when the clothes come off and the child sees, I don't feel better now. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really frustrating. So I think in my experience, for better or worse, my kid has cycles, and I've seen that
Mm-hmm.
his body talks to us in cycles. And if
Okay.
we pay attention
Mm-hmm.
when his body is talking to us through
Mm-hmm.
behavior, through regulation challenges, and I get curious around what could be provoking that, I almost
Mm-hmm.
always find something. I would say
Yeah.
always find something at the root of it. And when I handle that, his regulation becomes incredibly strong. And
Mm-hmm.
everything, including spelling, becomes easier. So
Right.
I know it's not
Right.
convenient
Mm-hmm.
to explore these things. It definitely takes time and energy and money as well. But
Mm-hmm.
even something as simple as filtering the water you're drinking in your house can make a difference. So I
Right.
always encourage parents to look at that, because I think there is this knee-jerk reaction amongst parents. They've been indoctrinated to think, like, go find the next thing, go find the next magic bullet
Right.
therapy thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I could sit here honestly and tell you that that makes sense, and ignoring what's happening in your biome
Mm-hmm.
is going to help. It's not. So
Yeah.
for me, it's definitely both. And we've seen in our own experience now, and you name it, we went through the ringer with OCD loops, behaviors.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
tons of them. To see my child now, you would never even believe he's the same kid. But I
Mm-hmm.
assure you, everything we're talking about, we dealt with in our house. I feel like
Okay.
I'm a good candidate for getting laser on my hands because I've got all kinds of scars and scratch marks, and
Yeah.
we handled
Mm-hmm.
that. We dealt with that. And the combination of keeping a close eye on his body, because for better or worse, his body was a lot more sensitive to challenges, but
Mm-hmm.
also providing him with a method of communication that allows him to feel seen and heard and
Yeah.
acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
We almost never have behaviors now. If we do,
Yeah.
it's a signal to us that something's going
Something's up. Yeah. Like there's
on.
something to look into. Yeah.
Yeah, something. And in fact,
Right.
yesterday, it was actually really validating when we were at
Mm-hmm.
his IEP meeting, because his team said, we've seen that he only has behaviors when he's not feeling well. So now one of
Mm-hmm.
his goals on his IEP is to start initiating communication,
Mm-hmm.
share that he's not feeling well as soon as he
Yeah.
notices, instead of waiting until he's further down the line, which we know, of
And there's
course,
right.
because of
Mm-hmm.
brain body disconnect. But what if he could tune into it sooner? So that's something we're all working on, and it will take work for him. But we're willing to do
Right. Yeah.
that. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that for him. I love that for you. Oh, that's so cool that he was able to be in his meeting and represent himself. I love that.
And
Um
before
on
we go to anything else, I just want to say, if you're hearing this and thinking, my
Mhm.
kid could never handle going to their meeting, that sounds like such a pipe dream.
Mhm.
Trust me, I was you too. Trust
Mhm.
me, I would hear those stories and I would think, I don't know that my child will ever be able to do that, but I'm not going to shut the door completely.
Mhm.
What if I just leave it
Mhm.
open a crack?
Mhm.
And I
Oh,
think
I love that. Yeah.
that's kind of a sneaky way of having hope.
And this is a conversation you're having with yourself,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
with myself
Mhm.
and then my husband and I would have them together too. Like we don't know if
Mhm.
that's possible for him, but what if it is?
But what if it is? So remember that. Never say, "Oh, my kid would never sit. My kid would never be able to do that." Because I might have had 2 clients in my whole history where they just sat in the chair every single time.
Yeah.
Everyone else had things to work through
Oh
and
yeah,
ongoing things to work through. So, yeah, never shut the door in the hope.
never.
I never like to say, "Oh, your kid can 100% do this," because, I don't know what's going on with your kid. I'm not a doctor, but most likely they can if you have the right support and the right practitioner, the right teachers, and the right will, right?
My favorite my favorite doctor for my child, Dr. Michael Ellis. He's semi-retired now, so he's not actively practicing as much anymore. I think he's still speaking though. You can find him at MAPS conferences and whatnot. I loved him
Mhm.
because he always said, I get the moms and dads, but usually the moms, who bring their kid through the door and they start by saying, everyone's telling me I'm crazy, but dot, dot, dot.
Mhm.
Usually, everyone's telling me I'm crazy, but I'm telling you there's something not quite right with my kid. And he said,
Mhm.
when I had a mom come through the door and say that, we did not stop looking until we found the thing. Sometimes it
Mhm.
came up on the
Mhm.
first round of blood work. Sometimes it took 3 rounds of deeper level blood work and a stool test. Sometimes it
Mhm.
took 6 months to find the thing. But he said, guess what? We always found the thing.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said it was so amazing to watch these moms, going back to what you said at the start around intuition in your gut. They
Right.
knew that their gut was the most important thing to listen to. And they
Mhm.
honored that. And I can tell you in my coaching practice, it is costly for families when their gut cells says, don't
Oh,
hire that attorney, or that's
Mhm.
not the right advocate for you, or this is
Mhm.
not the right school environment, and they do it anyway.
That it is. Yeah.
And then they
It
come to me
is.
saying, I just wasted a lot of time and energy and money and another year of my precious child's life
Right.
doing something that I knew wasn't right from the start.
Mhm.
Lesson learned. I'm going to
Yeah.
trust myself more next time. So, looping it all back together before we go on to the next question that you had,
Mhm.
I think parents are trained that their intuition is this kind of ooey gooey,
Yeah.
airy thing.
Yeah.
And yet, I see evidence of it on a daily basis being the thing
The
that
thing.
gives
Oh.
parents the right next step forward, even when they think they don't know what that step is.
Mhm.
So, to
Mhm.
your point of you had to get quiet and do
Mhm.
some shedding and
Mhm.
meditate and give
Mhm.
yourself some space for
Yeah.
that gut feeling to actually come through and be heard.
Right.
If you're a parent listening to this and you don't know what to do next, just do that.
Mhm.
Start with that.
Yeah, I actually want to stick on this, and this might be the ending topic. I want to stick on this because I feel like it's so important,
Yeah.
and it's the leading thing that in my business that's making the greatest impact through the families is when they get connected to their intuition. And I teach classes on this because I've seen in my personal life and in my business the thing that, like you said, that has led me in the right direction was never something on the outside. It was always my intuition. And in my classes, I tell my students that your intuition's there. It's there. You don't need to develop your intuition. You
Right.
need to develop your listening to it and tuning into it because we have been conditioned out of hearing our intuition.
Yes.
But when you've really learned to listen and you follow your intuition like it is your guide, because it is, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I knew the whole time. Oh my gosh, my intuition was telling me the whole time. And I know that you are spiritual, right? In more of a spiritual sense and a bigger picture sense, I believe that these non speaking autistics, a lot of times their role is to connect people back to themselves
Yeah.
because the pendulum has swung so far this way in every which way. And families, schools, medical systems, and all that. And we are so out of touch with the inside, and they're bringing us back, right?
They are.
Um,
I will say
so
they are. And I'm
yeah.
so glad they are because I think listening to your intuition has become a lost art. I think you
Mm,
absolutely hit it when you said you don't need to develop your intuition, you just need to listen to it. Mic drop. Correct, 100%. And even if you're listening to it is 2 minutes of silence in the bathroom, taking deep breaths, great.
mhm,
That's a start. But I think there are a lot of glimpses people get about their
mhm,
intuition that are validated, even if it's
mhm.
not called that. Usually I think of like my 3D world family who are not super spiritual, like my
Yeah.
parents who are a policeman and a nurse and who live really straight laced lives. But even they taught me about intuition. They didn't call it that though. Like I remember
Okay.
when I was in
Mhm.
college, my dad, a police lieutenant, he's retired now, gave me a talk and said to me, listen, you're a young woman, you're not living at home anymore. I can't control you. But if you ever go anywhere, into a party, into a shop late at night, and you something in your body just says, this is not quite
This is
right. He's like, you get
mhm,
the hell out of there. I don't care
right.
if you have to call a taxi. I don't care if you have to call me collect. This is back in the age of payphones. You listen to that. He's like, being a
Mhm.
police officer, you see a lot of women, especially, get into bad situations. He said almost all of them would say something to the effect of like, I knew I shouldn't have gone on that date.
Oh my
I
gosh,
knew I
yes.
shouldn't have done this
Mhm.
thing, but I didn't listen. And
Didn't
so
listen.
this is my 3D
Mhm.
world police lieutenant dad who's not met.
I know it's funny because I think of like the community helpers. It's like nurse, police.
That was my life. But even still, he taught me about
He taught
intuition in
you.
his
Yeah.
own way. And so I
Yeah.
think even if the spiritual conversations stir up something that feels foreign to you and you're not quite
Okay.
sure that
Yeah.
you can relate to them, go back to stories that your grandmother would tell you growing up, right? I
Mhm.
guarantee there's something in there about your intuition that maybe they called a different word, like a gut feeling, that
Yeah.
validates you listening to you. And you listening to you is
Mhm.
going to be the best thing for your child. But to Eileen's
Mhm.
point, if your head chatter is really strong, you won't have a
Mhm.
clear read. And I always
You
laugh when
won't.
people come to me in a session and say, I think my intuition is saying this, but I'm not sure. And what if it's that? What if it's like, it's not your intuition then?
Yeah. Your intuition's very clear,
Very,
right?
you
Very
might, you
clear.
might be second guessing yourself when you don't have enough quiet time to hear it. So go take some more quiet
Yes.
time to hear it. But,
Yes.
but I think that is as you said, a beautiful place to close this loop for parents because our world is so full. The autism world is saying so much right now. Do this, do that, try spelling, try this.
So it's like so much noise,
It's
so much
noisy.
chaos, and they're already overwhelmed.
Right. It's noisy. Maybe you don't need to go Googling at 3 a.m. again. Maybe you just need to sit in silence for 5 minutes and see what
Mm,
happens. I always say, too,
yeah.
if you set the intention before you sit in silence for 5 minutes, say there's something you've been wondering about and you don't have
Hmm.
an answer, set the intention, okay, universe, whatever you call it, God, spirit, whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
I intend to receive the answer that I need in this
I
moment.
love that.
And then go
Hmm.
into silence. If you actually just sit for 5 minutes, I guarantee you will
Hmm.
get the answer that you need. It doesn't take long
It doesn't.
when
Hmm.
you're intentional. So set your intention and then go do it. And this is what I love, Eileen, because I think I thought I was leaving my yoga spiritual world behind.
Hmm. Yeah.
Never. It takes part in every day, every podcast episode, everything. So thank you
Right.
for having me and allowing me to be my full self in service to others today.
Thank you so much for being here. I love just sitting down and listening. And I feel like there was so many things that you said that parents are going to feel like, I feel seen,
Yes.
I feel heard, and I just love that you're the example of, we were here, we dealt with the OCD and all these things, and we're here. I had thoughts that my child could never do this, but we left the door open and we did it. And now Rocco has a voice.
Yeah.
He attended his own IEP meeting, and I'm just like celebrating you guys. I feel like you're a beautiful example, and I'm so happy we've been able to connect and you can spread your voice and energy. on this platform.
Thank you. And if you feel curious about joining Autism Changemakers, please know that you can join anytime. It's very simple, it's very inexpensive. People are welcomed in every day. And I'm in there doing my work with you. It's not like I'm up on some pedestal and I'm done
Yeah.
as a parent.
Right.
Never,
Yeah.
never done. Work is ongoing and we're all in it together, supporting each other there. So please join us.
Yes. And where can they find you to find that?
You can do a couple things. One is just go to autismchangemakers.com. The other is follow me on Instagram, Sara.Intonato. And I share tons of information there. I'm redoing my other personal website, which is through there. I take a lot of one-on-one clients, speaking engagements, whatnot. But Autism Changemakers is the best place to find the group, or find me on Instagram and have real conversations with me on social media. I love that.
Yeah, these are the conversations that we need to be having for the new paradigm, for the future, for this group of people. And yeah,
amen.
For sure. Yes. All right. Well, thank you for being here. It has been the best. And I hope to do it again.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one. Bye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.